and he must sacrifice his son.
Yeah.
And lifts up the knife, and lo and behold, there's a ram caught in the thicket.
Yeah, that's the motif, absolutely. That's purposeful.
And then they actually drink the seal's blood. I mean, this is Eucharistic.
Yeah.
This is, when you think of the Mass, this is my body, this is my blood.
Yeah. They eat the heart and drink they eat the flesh and drink the blood.
And we all know, just in popular religion, the role of the Sacred Heart, which you actually can see. The new saint and St. Joseph's Oratory, you can see the Sacred Heart of the saint, literally, St. Andre. So is it fair? Is this fair to make these kind of...
Oh, absolutely. And certainly the Eucharistic elements, the Abraham and Isaac, I didn't know, when I got to that point, I didn't know what to do, so I thought, And because essentially the play is about, on one level it's about survival, but it's also about sacrifice too. It's a play that's about, what are we willing to sacrifice in order to meet our own ends and survive. The whole question of war too, the impending war, and what the pressure that has on the play, and the way people react to the situation that they're in, it certainly acts as a kind of a precursor to what happens, but it also drives people back to a kind of, I think, a kind of essential humanity where I don't know what I'm made of until I'm tested to beyond my limits of endurance. And that interested me as well. And I think part of what I think we live in a secular and a very, in many ways, a very cynical age, which is fine. It's just where we find ourselves. It's not anybody's. There's nobody to blame or to be blamed or given credit in either way. But to a certain degree, I think when we do find ourselves challenged to the extreme, there's something, we discover something that we don't understand, we can't control, and it's in all of us, and it's been in humanity forever. It may be a psychological ripple, or it may indicate something, a larger, more comforting and generous kind of world or element. There's something else going on. We can deny. I'm not a particularly. I'm certainly not devout or practicing Christian, but there's spirituality informed by those elements of Christianity, and I welcome it. And I find it feeds me enormously when I go to church 3 times a year. So, yes. So I think we are when we are forced to that one question. The question that surrounds our mortality, and the big question. Well, what and why? There's something else happens, and that's what I was after in this piece to take us into that realm. And the circumstances seemed perfect for that, for that kind of exploration.
Yes, come.
I missed previous sessions, so I'm sorry if you've asked this already, but was the writing of this for you something that just came relatively fast and finished relatively fast, or was it something that you were thinking about for a while?
I think it's about 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. It premiered in 99, I think. Yeah, in April '94 is when the commission. So 5 years. Went through 8 drafts.
Whoa. Whoa. Well, now I feel bad that we only read it 4 times the first time.
But there is a kind of, excuse me, there is a kind of an accepted, it's very different than prose. There's a accepted wisdom that it takes about probably at least 7 drafts before a stage piece is ready for production. Often, the first piece comes rolling out fairly easy, and it's the same thing I think with any piece of literature. For many writers, I think, talk about this at first pieces kind of rolls out, but the second, third, and fourth, and then pieces after that are hard work. Because you start, if you're not careful, what I discovered is I began repeating myself. The same template, the same kind of characters, the same characters, what you might call it, same character spread. The same animus, the same sort of psychological forces in myself trying to sort myself out. It started to reappear, and I said, well, that's not good enough. I really have to go beyond that and tell a different story in a different way. And the other thing too, in the writing of this over that probably 4.5 year period, there were 4 major theatrical, because it's so huge. Theatrically, it's a monster. It's just huge. It's difficult to produce, and it's hard to cast. And it's terribly expensive. It's only had 2 productions. This one and the production in France, in translation, which was wonderful. And we're putting another production was coming up this year, but it foundered. This is between 2 companies, between Montreal and Toronto, and I'll include the details of it. There's a lot of politics, but essentially it was too big, and it defeated 2 small companies who thought together they could overcome the difficulties. But in the writing of it, the Rising Tide Theatre in Newfoundland was a contributing partner. That means they're putting money into the development, because every draft has to be read. So all of those 8 drafts, actors were collected for a day, perhaps 2 days.
So you're getting critique throughout the process?
In a sense, yes, but it's a kind of collaborative. It's not critique so much as it is a collaborative expansion. I would say people are not there to critique or criticize. They're there to, because you go with an actor, for example. There's no greater gift than a good actor to a play of development, because they're totally focused on their character, and it's the questions, not the critique, that define the movement of the next draft. So you want to assemble the best possible people, and luckily in that case the other partners were the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. So Rising Tide, National Arts Centre, Canadian Stage Company in Toronto, which was at that time the regional theatre in the country, plus money from the Canada Council. So those 4 forces over that 5-year period helped me, the writer, to dig in as deeply as possible and then rise as high as I possibly could.
Thanks for the practical question, Mr.
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because it's one that's not often asked, and it gives you a sense of the enormity of the process behind the writing. And theater is so much different than anything else.
I know you had said in some reading that I had done that sometimes you have an idea, it'll nag you for a while, and if it's good enough, it'll grab hold, and you'll be able to grasp it and build it. Otherwise, let it alone and
forget about it.
Yeah. So I was wondering if that was happening with you in the months before you wrote the first.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a wonderful piece of advice from, I think it's Hallie Burnett. Hallie and Whit Burnett were the American publishers of Story magazine in the I think 40s and 50s, 60s. And